Imagine waking up one day and realizing that life doesn't owe you a single thing. Not happiness, not comfort, not even fairness. Every excuse you've told yourself about why you're not progressing, why the world is against you, why people are luckier than you, every one of them is a lie you've been telling yourself to avoid facing the cold, brutal truth. The world doesn't care, and neither will anyone else if you don't take control of your mind. This isn't a motivational quote you paste on Instagram and forget. This is reality, and ignoring it will keep you weak, miserable, and average. So before you click away, understand this. If you want mental strength, if you want unshakable focus and discipline, you must accept truths most people can't handle, truths that sting like fire in the chest because they hit at the core of your comfort, your ego, and your illusions. Here's the first truth. Pay attention, because failing to internalize this one will render everything else useless. Truth 1. Life is brutally indifferent, and nobody owes you anything. You're born, you exist, and the universe doesn't pause for your convenience. There is no cosmic plan that will hand you rewards for being good or nice or deserving. People will betray you, the economy will fail you, opportunities will vanish in ways you can't control, and the world will keep spinning without caring if you succeed or fail. Stop expecting fairness. Stop expecting validation. Stop waiting for someone to notice your effort. The harshest warriors of mental strength, the people who achieve insane results in life, aren't those who complain about injustice. They're the ones who stare it dead in the eyes and move forward anyway. Understand this: if you base your mental peace on the world being fair, you are building a house on sand. It will collapse. Happiness is not given. It is earned by the way you process reality, by the discipline to control what you can, and the courage to let go of what you can't. If someone insults you, betrays you, or outperforms you, it's not a personal attack. It's reality functioning exactly as it does for everyone. The moment you accept that, you stop wasting energy on resentment, excuses, and blame. Here's the ugly truth about deserving. Nobody will hand it to you. Deserving is irrelevant. Life doesn't operate on meritocracy in the short term. It operates on action. The people who succeed are not the smartest, not the most talented, not the luckiest. They are the ones who show up, who grind when nobody is watching, who embrace the cold, hard reality that progress isn't guaranteed and still move forward relentlessly. Ask yourself this right now. How much of your mental energy is wasted on "why me?" or "this isn't fair"? Every second spent wishing reality were different is a second you could be building discipline, skill, resilience, and clarity. Mentally strong people don't negotiate with life. They acknowledge the chaos, the randomness, the indifference, and they use it as fuel. The universe is neutral, but your response is not. That's where your power comes from. Let's take a concrete example. Someone cuts you off in traffic, insults you online, or your boss criticizes your work unfairly. Your first reaction might be anger, resentment, self-pity. That is weakness. A mentally strong person sees the exact same scenario and thinks, okay, this happened, I can't control it. Now what can I control? My response, my work, my focus. That's it. No whining, no waiting for validation, no wishing the world were different. Just action. That is how you convert the world's indifference into your advantage. This principle extends beyond minor annoyances. You want to be wealthy? Life doesn't owe you money no matter how hard you study or how talented you think you are. You want influence? Life doesn't owe you followers, recognition, or respect. You want mental clarity? Life doesn't owe you calm. Every benefit you seek is earned through the application of discipline, sacrifice, and acceptance of reality. Anything else is fantasy, a mental trap designed to keep you soft, dependent, and average. Here's another hard pill. Embracing life's indifference is liberating. Once you accept that the world isn't going to reward you for existing, you stop blaming external circumstances. You stop wasting your emotional energy on things you cannot change. You stop needing people to like you or opportunities to magically appear. Your focus narrows to what matters: your actions, your habits, your mind. And when you operate from that place, every obstacle becomes an opportunity, every setback a lesson, every insult or betrayal a chance to strengthen your resolve. The first step to mental strength is seeing the world as it is, not as you wish it were. This is brutal because it forces you to confront your ego, your entitlement, and the comforting lies you've been telling yourself. But it's also necessary. You cannot be unshakable if your foundation is built on expectation rather than reality. Stop expecting. Start acting. That's the simplest but most neglected truth about life. And here's the final kicker for this truth. Most people will never accept it. Most people cling to fairness, to karma, to deserving, as if the universe were a benevolent teacher handing out grades. They will fail. They will complain. They will stagnate. If you accept this truth, you immediately separate yourself from the masses. You see opportunities where others see injustice. You feel calm where others feel chaos. You act decisively where others hesitate. And that is the beginning of mental strength. So internalize this. Life is neutral. You are responsible for your response. Nobody owes you a thing. The sooner you accept this, the sooner you step into a mindset where discipline, resilience, and unshakable focus become your default. Stop wasting energy on fairness. Stop waiting for validation. Start acting relentlessly, even if the world doesn't care. That's how mentally strong people are made. That's how you start becoming unbreakable.
Truth 2. You are your own prisoner. The second truth that separates the weak from the unshakable is this: you are the one holding yourself back more than anyone else ever could. Nobody is controlling your mind, your focus, or your discipline except you. Every failure, every setback, every moment of stagnation is not the result of external forces. It is the result of your own choices, your own weaknesses, and your own refusal to take responsibility. This is a truth most people can't face because it forces them to look in the mirror and admit that they are, in fact, the architects of their own suffering. That the chains keeping them from freedom, success, and mental strength are not forged by society, by their circumstances, or by some cosmic injustice. They are forged by themselves every single day. Think about it. How much of your energy is spent blaming others, circumstances, or luck for why you're not where you want to be? How many times have you said, if only I had the right school, the right connections, the right timing, the right mentor, then I'd be successful? That is weakness. That is surrender. You are living in a self-created cage, and you keep telling yourself it's someone else's fault. The mentally strong understand that this is an illusion. There are no walls around you except the ones you have built. There are no guards except your fear, procrastination, and lack of self-discipline. And the most frightening part, you have the key, but you refuse to use it. Here's what that looks like in real life. You want to learn a skill. You want to grow your income. You want to improve your body, your mind, or your habits. But instead of committing fully, you procrastinate. You scroll social media. You binge videos. You tell yourself, I'll start tomorrow, or I'm too tired, or it's not the right time. Each of these excuses is a brick in the cage, And every time you give in, you are reinforcing the bars around yourself. Nobody forced you to waste that hour, that day, that year. You chose it. Your mind is the prison, and you are the warden. And here's the brutal part. Most people will never realize this. Most people live their entire lives complaining about external limitations while ignoring the internal ones that truly control their fate. You want to be wealthy? You think a lack of connections or education is holding you back. The reality is that the majority of self-made millionaires started with nothing, no connections, no luck, no special circumstances, but they mastered themselves. They refused to be prisoners of their own fears, laziness, and ego. That is the difference between average people and mentally strong people. Let's dig deeper. What does it mean to be your own prisoner? It means your emotions dictate your actions. It means your thoughts, fear, self-doubt, anger, resentment control your behavior. It means your identity is defined by what you tell yourself instead of what you do. A person who is mentally strong doesn't live this way. They are vigilant over their mind. They do not let impulses, excuses, or external noise dictate their behavior. They understand that freedom is not given, it is earned through mastery over oneself. Here's an example everyone faces: criticism. You post something online, you present a project at work, you take a risk, and people judge you. A weak mind internalizes that, feels hurt, gets angry, or withdraws. That is imprisonment. Your emotional reactions are chains, and you are enslaved to the opinions of others. A strong mind sees the same situation and thinks, this is information, not judgment. I cannot control their perception, but I can control my response. I will act in alignment with my principles and my goals, regardless of their opinion. That is freedom. That is mental strength. Now let's talk about habits. Habits are the invisible chains most people never notice. Waking up late, scrolling your phone for hours, eating poorly, avoiding exercise, wasting time on trivial distractions. Every one of these habits is a link in your personal prison. The mentally strong see this clearly. They understand that freedom is not a state of circumstance, it is a state of habit. They break bad habits mercilessly and replace them with routines that empower their mind, body, and spirit. Every day they act intentionally. Every day they strengthen the part of themselves that decides, acts, and endures. Here's the catch. This truth is uncomfortable because it forces you to stop blaming. You can't cry about unfair circumstances. You can't complain about the people around you. You can't hide behind excuses. If you are not progressing, the responsibility is yours and only yours. That is terrifying, but it is also liberating. Because once you accept that the only thing controlling your life is you also realize that the only thing standing in the way of everything you want is also you. There is no external limitation strong enough to stop a person who has mastered themselves. This truth also exposes a subtle enemy, the comfort zone. The moment you rely on routines that feel easy, environments that feel safe, or relationships that enable laziness, you are building your own cage. You are trading freedom for temporary comfort. The mentally strong do the opposite. They embrace discomfort. They choose challenges. They seek growth in places others avoid. They are willing to be uncomfortable today so that tomorrow they are free. And this is not a metaphor. Freedom in life, freedom to earn, to think, to create, is directly proportional to your ability to endure discomfort and act despite fear. Let's break this down to the core principle. Responsibility equals power. The moment you stop blaming others, the moment you stop waiting for permission, the moment you stop relying on luck, you gain control. The chains fall away. The prison is empty because the jailer has walked out. You have the power to act, to grow, to dominate your environment, and to shape your destiny. But few will ever claim it, because claiming it requires brutal honesty with oneself, and honesty is painful. It exposes weaknesses, fears, and failures we'd rather ignore. But growth is born in that discomfort. Strength is forged in that fire. Here's a practical step to internalize this truth. Every time you feel frustration, resentment, or blame, stop and ask, what part of this am I responsible for? How am I contributing to this situation? You will be surprised by how often the answer is not external. It is internal. And when you take that responsibility fully, you also take the power to change it fully. This is the key difference between a victim and a master of life. Now imagine living like this consistently. Imagine never being a slave to fear, laziness, or the opinions of others. Imagine making every decision, every action, every day aligned with your principles and goals, knowing that the only thing standing between you and the life you want is your willingness to act. That is mental strength. That is freedom. That is reality, stripped of illusions. And it begins by facing the second truth. You are your own prisoner. Accept it, embrace it, and start acting today, relentlessly, because the moment you do, the cage falls away and you step into the unshakable mindset that no one and nothing can destroy.
Truth 3. Nobody cares about your struggle. Here is a truth so brutally unflinching that most people spend their entire lives avoiding it, because it confronts the part of the human mind that clings to comfort, sympathy, and external validation. Nobody cares about your struggle, nobody will pause life to recognize your pain, and nobody is obligated to notice, let alone help, you simply because you are suffering, or working tirelessly to improve yourself. And this is not cruelty, it is reality. It is the immutable law of existence. And the sooner you internalize it, the sooner you will stop wasting precious energy on illusions and begin acting with real freedom. Because the world does not bend to your ideals, your hardships, or your expectations. And the sooner you accept this, the sooner you stop allowing your emotional state to be hijacked by disappointment, resentment, and frustration over the lack of recognition, empathy, or support. And you begin to operate with a clarity, ruthlessness, and discipline that most people never experience. Because most people live as if the world owes them attention, praise, or acknowledgement for simply existing, for simply enduring, for simply trying. And as a result, they are crushed repeatedly when life fails to meet these expectations. When people betray, abandon, ignore, or belittle them. When opportunities do not appear on schedule, when effort seems to vanish into a vacuum with no reward or recognition. And every time this happens, the unprepared mind is destabilized, demoralized, and demotivated. But the mentally strong understand that external recognition is irrelevant, that other people's attention is optional, and that waiting for validation is a slow, painful path to weakness, stagnation, and mediocrity. And they recognize that the only person whose opinion, effort, and judgment can be relied upon consistently is themselves, and that the only standard they are accountable to is their own. And once you internalize this, something shifts deep inside. You stop asking for permission to act. You stop seeking encouragement to persevere. You stop hoping for someone to notice the struggle you endure or the sacrifices you make, because you know that the world will never do this for you, and your progress, your strength, your results are entirely in your hands. And the moment you stop expecting recognition or empathy from others, you reclaim power that most people squander chasing attention, sympathy, or approval, and you begin to act decisively, deliberately, and relentlessly, because you understand that effort without applause is still effort. Discipline without praise is still discipline. Sacrifice without recognition is still growth. And resilience without spectators is still strength. And this is the essence of unshakable mental toughness. You endure, act, and win even when no one is watching, even when no one notices, even when the universe seems indifferent. Because you recognize that the only thing that truly matters is whether you honor your own standards, your own potential, and your own principles. And that relying on others for motivation, for empathy, or for acknowledgement is a form of surrender, because it places your state of mind, your drive, and your results into the hands of someone else, someone whose attention is finite, whose priorities are different, whose perception is flawed, and whose loyalty is conditional. And if you continue to do this, you will never develop the independence, resilience, and mental strength required to dominate your life, because external validation is never guaranteed, external sympathy is never consistent, and external help is never reliable. And therefore, the only sustainable foundation for mental strength is radical self-reliance, complete ownership of your decisions, and relentless focus on your own actions regardless of how the world reacts. And here is the practical application. Do not wait for anyone to understand, appreciate, or recognize your struggle. Do not expect gratitude, approval, or empathy from those around you. Do not assume that your hard work will automatically be noticed, validated, or rewarded by others, because the world does not operate on fairness, and waiting for it to do so is a trap, a slow, invisible chain that will prevent you from moving forward. And the mentally strong break these chains by internalizing that the struggle itself, the effort itself, and the discipline itself are the reward, that progress and growth are intrinsic, not extrinsic, and that external acknowledgement is optional, secondary, and irrelevant to their mission. And once you fully accept this, you stop being reactive to people's actions or indifference. You stop letting perceived slights or lack of attention derail you, and you stop measuring your self-worth based on someone else's awareness or appreciation. And instead, you focus entirely on what you can control: your thoughts, your habits, your actions, and your results. And this focus creates an unbreakable mindset, because when you stop needing anyone to care, you are free to act, free to endure, free to persevere, and free to grow in ways that the majority of people cannot, because they are forever dependent on external approval, forever distracted by other people's opinions, forever emotionally swayed by recognition, sympathy, or lack thereof. Whereas you operate from a position of complete independence, radical ownership, and relentless mental strength. And the beauty of this truth is that it transforms adversity into fuel, disappointment into clarity, betrayal into strategy, and isolation into empowerment. Because the realization that nobody cares forces you to stop waiting, stop complaining, stop blaming, and start executing relentlessly, deliberately, and without hesitation. Because you understand that external attention is unreliable, external empathy is optional, and external help is conditional. And the only thing guaranteed, the only thing consistent, and the only thing under your control is your own effort. And when you act from this understanding every day, when you embrace the fact that nobody will notice, nobody will validate, and nobody will appreciate your struggle, you develop a level of mental toughness, discipline, and independence that is rare, unstoppable, and transformative.
because you are no longer shackled by the illusions of sympathy or recognition. You are no longer dependent on others for motivation or validation, and you finally are free to endure, to fight, and to thrive on your own terms. And that is the ultimate Stoic lesson. Struggle without recognition, work without applause, growth without spectators, because the only approval you need is your own. The only attention that matters is your own focus, and the only validation that counts is your unwavering commitment to yourself. And once you live fully by this principle, nothing external can stop you, nothing unforeseen can destabilize you, and nothing in the world can hold you back from building unshakable mental strength, achieving mastery, and becoming the person who acts decisively, relentlessly, and without compromise, regardless of who notices, applauds, or cares. Because in the end, nobody will, but you will. And that is all that matters.
Truth 4. You are your habits. Here is a truth that is painfully simple, yet almost nobody truly grasps. You are nothing more than the sum of your habits. And if your habits are weak, scattered, or inconsistent, your mind, your life, and your destiny will be weak, scattered, and inconsistent too. This is brutal because it strips away all excuses, all rationalizations, all comforting illusions that you are somehow a victim of circumstances, luck, or external forces. Because the reality is that the way you structure your daily life, the small, repeated actions you perform without thinking, is what builds or destroys you. It's what separates a weak, reactive person from someone mentally unshakable. And yet most people live completely unconscious of this fact. They scroll their phones, binge content, procrastinate, and repeat the same unproductive behaviors day after day, convincing themselves that tomorrow, next week, or next month they'll get serious. But by then, the cumulative effect of wasted minutes, hours, and days has already set their trajectory toward mediocrity, and they never realize it until decades later, when they see their peers or even strangers advancing past them, achieving success, building resilience, and mastering themselves, and they feel the sting of regret, the frustration of realizing they have been sabotaging themselves quietly all along. And here is where mental strength comes in. Because the truly unbreakable recognize that your mind cannot be strong, your focus cannot be unshakable, your results cannot be extraordinary unless you consciously design your habits, ruthlessly enforce discipline, and repeatedly act in ways that align with the person you want to become. And this is not a metaphor, it is a law of reality. Small actions compound. Small decisions amplify. Small behaviors determine the architecture of your life. And anyone who refuses to take ownership of their daily actions is condemning themselves to a life dictated by impulse, distraction, and weakness. And it doesn't matter how talented, intelligent, or motivated you feel in fleeting moments. If your habits are inconsistent, your results will always reflect your daily patterns rather than your desires. So you must examine yourself ruthlessly. Audit your behaviors. Identify the tiny decisions that steal your time and energy. Mindless scrolling, unhealthy eating, avoidance of exercise, inconsistent learning, procrastination, seeking immediate comfort over delayed results, and eradicate them one by one, replacing them with deliberate, disciplined routines that feed your mind, body, and purpose. And here is the brutal clarity that most people cannot stomach. The world does not care about your intentions, your ideas, your feelings, or your excuses. It only responds to actions, repeated actions, performed consistently over time. And if you want to be mentally strong, resilient, and unshakable,
You must treat your habits as sacred, non-negotiable, and untouchable, because the battle for mental fortitude is not won in extraordinary moments of heroism. It is won in the mundane, repetitive, invisible choices that define your day. Waking up on time when your body screams to stay in bed. Working on your craft when everyone else is distracted. Enduring discomfort when your mind screams for ease. Reading, learning, exercising, reflecting, and showing up consistently even when it feels pointless. And these actions, performed relentlessly, become a fortress around your mind, a framework for discipline, a shield against chaos. And yet most people sabotage themselves by leaving this foundation to chance, thinking that occasional bursts of effort or motivation are enough, when in reality, motivation is fleeting and unreliable, and only habits provide the scaffolding upon which mental strength is built. So you must become your own architect, designing routines that elevate you, systems that enforce consistency, and rituals that cannot be broken even when life is hard, uncomfortable, or chaotic. Because your habits are not just behaviors. They are the lens through which you experience reality, the engine that drives your results, and the proof of who you really are when no one is watching. And if you neglect them, you will never achieve the focus, resilience, or mastery you desire. No amount of reading, wishing, or planning will substitute for disciplined action repeated daily. So take brutal inventory of your life. Tear down the weak, lazy, or destructive patterns. Build a fortress of habits that serve your goals. And understand that every moment you act in alignment with the person you wish to become, you are strengthening your mind, fortifying your resolve, and stepping closer to unshakable mental strength. Because in the end, you are nothing more and nothing less than the habits you cultivate. And mastering them is not optional if you want to dominate your life, achieve clarity, and live unshakable. Because habits are destiny, and destiny does not wait for the weak, the distracted, or the unprepared.
Truth 5. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Here is a truth most people never fully grasp, a truth that separates those who break under pressure from those who emerge stronger, unshakable, and relentless. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. And until you internalize this distinction, your mind will remain enslaved to every discomfort, insult, setback, and failure that life throws at you. The world is harsh, chaotic, and indifferent, and no amount of planning, wishing, or complaining can shield you from the punches that come whether you are ready or not, whether you deserve them or not, whether they are fair or unfair. And yet most people conflate pain with suffering. They believe that the mere presence of difficulty should dictate their emotional state, their self-worth, or their actions, when in reality, pain is simply a fact of existence. It is neutral, unavoidable, and impersonal. And suffering is the story you attach to it, the mental interpretation that turns a simple setback into a life-altering catastrophe. And understanding this is the key to mental resilience, because the moment you realize that your response to pain is optional, that you can endure, adapt, and act despite it, you reclaim control over your life and your mind. You stop being a passive victim, and you start becoming a master of your inner world, a commander of your thoughts, emotions, and actions. And this begins with brutal honesty. Things will hurt. Things will go wrong. People will betray you. Opportunities will vanish. Your body will ache. Your mind will rebel. And nothing about existence guarantees comfort, safety, or fairness.
And if you are waiting for life to be easy before you act, before you grow, before you embrace discipline, you will die waiting, your potential stunted, your mental strength stunted. Because pain is not negotiable, it is constant, and the sooner you confront it, the sooner you stop fearing it, the sooner you stop avoiding challenges, and the sooner you transform adversity into fuel, into knowledge, into resilience. The mentally strong understand that every insult, every loss, every heartbreak, every injury, every moment of fear is not a punishment, it is a test. And the test is designed not to break you, but to reveal what you are made of, to show you the weaknesses you must address, to force you into action when comfort would have left you stagnant. And the difference between those who crumble and those who thrive lies entirely in the mind, in the capacity to observe pain without judgment, to feel it without letting it control you, and to act decisively despite it, because pain itself is meaningless, but suffering, the mental amplification of pain, the endless replay of hurt, resentment, and self-pity, is optional. And if you refuse to give it power, you will free yourself from a prison that most people don't even realize exists. Consider this practically. When you fail, you can choose to wallow, blame others, ruminate on what went wrong, or you can choose to learn, adapt, and act again with clarity and focus. When you are betrayed, you can allow bitterness to consume you, or you can recognize the reality, detach emotionally from what you cannot control, and move forward stronger. When your body aches from effort or exhaustion, you can quit, or you can push past the discomfort, knowing that pain is temporary and growth is permanent. When criticism or mockery hits, you can allow it to define your self-worth, or you can see it as data, as opportunity to refine, improve, and excel. And in every situation where discomfort arises, you have the same choice: succumb to suffering or convert it into strength. Because mental fortitude is not the absence of pain, it is the mastery of how you respond to it. And the sooner you accept this, the sooner you stop fearing challenges, the sooner you stop avoiding difficult conversations, rigorous work, physical strain, emotional confrontation, or personal responsibility. Because all of these are inevitable components of life, and all of them contain lessons, insights, and growth that cannot be gained otherwise. And let's be clear, nobody escapes pain, nobody escapes setbacks, nobody escapes loss, death, disappointment, or failure. But some people suffer endlessly, letting each blow crush their spirit, while others endure, adapt, and extract value from the same experiences. And the difference is entirely mental, entirely within your control, and entirely dependent on your willingness to accept reality as it is, not as you wish it to be, and to act in alignment with your principles, regardless of external conditions. This truth is liberating, because once you internalize that suffering is optional, you reclaim autonomy, you reclaim your focus, and you reclaim the ability to act decisively even when circumstances are cruel, chaotic, or unpredictable. And the practical implication is simple. Every time you experience discomfort, identify it, feel it, acknowledge it, and then deliberately choose action over rumination, growth over complaint, discipline over avoidance, resilience over weakness. And over time, this repeated practice rewires your mind, fortifies your emotions, strengthens your discipline, and makes you unshakable in the face of adversity. Because the mind that can endure the unavoidable pain without succumbing to unnecessary suffering is a mind that can operate with clarity, focus, and relentless purpose in every situation. And that is the foundation of mental strength, the bedrock of unshakable confidence, and the path to freedom from the chaos, injustice, and indifference of the world. Because while life will always be painful in ways you cannot control, your suffering is entirely your choice. And once you stop giving it power, you will finally step into a state of mind where nothing external can break you, nothing unforeseen can derail you, and nothing that happens can steal your peace, your focus, or your ability to act with relentless courage. Because pain is a fact, suffering is a choice, and the mentally strong choose strength, clarity, and growth every single time. No exceptions, no compromises, no excuses. Because choosing otherwise is surrender, and surrender is for the weak, the unprepared, and the average. And you are not here to be average. You are here to dominate your inner world, to master your mind, and to become unshakable in the face of life's relentless challenges.
Truth 6. Nobody will save you. Here is a truth so unforgiving, so overlooked, that most people spend their entire lives waiting for rescue, for opportunity, for someone to notice them, to guide them, to hand them the success, respect, or happiness they crave. And yet the reality is this: nobody will save you. Nobody owes you guidance, protection, or a second chance. And if you sit around hoping for someone else to fix your problems, someone else to motivate you, someone else to validate you, you will wake up decades later wondering why your life looks nothing like you imagined. Because the harshest reality of existence is that everyone is busy pursuing their own survival, ambitions, and comforts. The world is indifferent, and the only person responsible for your growth, your success, your mental strength, and your happiness is you, and you alone. Stop relying on mentors, bosses, friends, or society to lift you. Because even when people help, their support is temporary, conditional, or incomplete. And the people who are unshakable, who dominate their circumstances, who achieve extraordinary results, understand this deeply. They take full responsibility, they operate with radical self-reliance, and they refuse to wait for anyone else's permission, guidance, or acknowledgement. Because waiting is weakness, and dependence is chains. And the sooner you internalize this, the sooner you begin to act like a master of your own fate, instead of a pawn in someone else's game. Think about it in practical terms. No one will motivate you to wake up early. No one will force you to put in the hours. No one will push you to endure the pain, the discomfort, the discipline required to build unshakable mental strength. And no one will prevent you from making bad decisions, wasting your time, or succumbing to weakness. So if you are waiting for a signal, a sign, or a savior to step in, you are wasting your life and giving your power away. And the moment you accept that nobody will save you is the moment you reclaim full ownership of your life. Because ownership is freedom, and freedom is the foundation of mental strength. Here is the brutal nuance most people refuse to face. Support, encouragement, and guidance from others can accelerate growth. They can provide shortcuts. They can offer insight.
but they can never replace the grind, the discipline, the sacrifice, the deliberate daily action that only you can execute. And depending on external forces for your success is a recipe for failure, disappointment, and weakness. Because the world will never pause for you, your comfort, your excuses, or your waiting. It moves on relentlessly, and those who rely on it are left behind, bitter and frustrated, while those who act independently rise, advance, and dominate. And this principle applies to every domain of life: business, wealth, fitness, relationships, skill development, and mindset. If you wait for a mentor to teach you everything, you will stagnate. If you wait for your parents to provide you with everything, you will remain dependent. If you wait for luck to favor you, you will remain a spectator in life while others play the game and win. This is where mental strength is forged, by realizing that the power, the control, the agency to act decisively, strategically, and relentlessly lies solely in your hands, because nobody else has the time, energy, or obligation to care about your dreams as much as you do. And those who succeed understand this, internalize it, and operate on it every single day. Consider adversity, for example. When failure hits, when betrayal occurs, when rejection stings, when the economy collapses, when your body aches, or when life deals you a blow, your natural instinct might be to cry out for help, to wait for someone to rescue you, to seek validation or sympathy. But that is surrender, that is weakness, and that is a trap, because no one can endure your pain for you. No one can do your work for you. No one can face your challenges for you. And if you refuse to confront this truth, your suffering will continue indefinitely, leaving you frustrated, anxious, and powerless. Whereas the moment you internalize that nobody will save you, you stop complaining, you stop waiting, and you start acting decisively, strategically, and relentlessly. Because you understand that action is the only thing that moves you forward, the only thing that builds mental fortitude, and the only thing that creates real results. And here is the practical application. Develop radical self-reliance. Build systems, routines, and habits that do not require oversight, mentorship, or validation. Push yourself every day, even when motivation is gone. Endure discomfort even when there is no external pressure. Make decisions that align with your long-term vision even when no one is watching. And hold yourself accountable to standards that exceed what anyone else expects, because that is the essence of unshakable mental strength. And the sooner you stop relying on others, the sooner you reclaim your power, the sooner you stop surrendering your agency, and the sooner you take control of your life. Finally, understand that this does not mean you avoid learning, networking, or seeking guidance. It means you understand the difference between support and dependence. You use resources strategically without giving away your autonomy. And you execute relentlessly regardless of the presence or absence of external help. Because the reality is clear. Nobody will save you, nobody owes you, nobody will pause life for you. And if you want to dominate, survive, and thrive, you must step up, take ownership, and act decisively, consistently, and mercilessly. Because waiting for rescue is weakness, waiting for luck is surrender, and the path to mental strength is walked alone,
forged in the fire of self-reliance, resilience, and relentless action. And once you embrace this, nothing external can control your state of mind, your focus, or your results. And that is the power of understanding this truth.
Truth 7. Time is your only irreplaceable resource. Here is a truth that almost everyone ignores until it's far too late. A truth that can either make you unstoppable or leave you living a life of regret and mediocrity. Time is your only irreplaceable resource, and no amount of money, power, connections, or talent can recover it once it is gone. And yet the majority of people squander it daily, wasting hours scrolling on social media, consuming meaningless content, entertaining distractions, indulging in comfort, and postponing action with the illusion that tomorrow will somehow compensate for the hours, days, and years they throw away. When in reality, every second you waste is a second you will never get back. Every decision to delay your work, your growth, or your discipline compounds into a life slowly consumed by regret. And the mentally strong internalize this in the deepest, most unflinching way. They understand that time is not a renewable resource, that life is a finite series of moments, and that if they want to achieve mastery, wealth, resilience, and unshakable mental strength, they must guard every second like a general guarding a fortress, because every minute you waste is an opportunity surrendered to mediocrity, and this awareness changes everything. Think about it. How many people spend hours doing things that add nothing to their future, complaining, worrying, arguing, binging, or indulging fleeting pleasures, convincing themselves that they have plenty of time, while their potential slowly rots, while their dreams move further away, while their mental strength atrophies due to neglect. And the harsh reality is that there is no reset button, no pause, no undo, no second chance for time lost. And the longer you ignore this truth, the steeper the price you pay, because the accumulation of wasted time compounds invisibly, quietly, relentlessly. And once enough is lost, the awareness of wasted years hits like a hammer, leaving frustration, self-recrimination, and a sense of helplessness that could have been avoided had you simply acted with discipline, focus, and urgency from the start. The mentally strong internalize this in a way that changes their behavior at every moment. They treat every day as sacred, every hour as precious, every task as a step toward their ultimate vision, because they understand that laziness, procrastination, and distraction are the greatest thieves of all, and that time, unlike money, cannot be earned back, borrowed, or substituted, and therefore must be leveraged ruthlessly, intentionally, and mercilessly, which is why they plan meticulously, they execute relentlessly, and they reject everything that does not serve their long-term purpose, because even small daily wastes add up to years of lost potential. And no one else will remind you of this. No one else will enforce it. And no one else cares whether you use your time wisely or squander it, which means the responsibility falls entirely on you. And the sooner you accept this, the sooner you take control. Because until you face this truth, you remain a passive participant in your own life, drifting along like a leaf in the wind, while the mentally strong are captains of their ship, navigating deliberately, decisively, and relentlessly, because time is the one resource that is equal for everyone. But the outcomes are wildly different depending on how it is spent. And those who guard it, who respect it, who act on it with ruthless focus, achieve extraordinary results, while those who ignore it are left average, frustrated, and full of regret. And the cruel twist is that the world will continue without pause, without waiting,
without consideration for your unpreparedness. And if you have spent decades allowing distractions, comfort, and laziness to dictate your life, the price of lost time will be unbearable, because you cannot manufacture hours, you cannot negotiate for seconds, and you cannot reclaim the moments that have passed. So the mentally strong take the opposite approach. They ruthlessly cut distractions. They maximize efficiency. They act with precision. They prioritize relentlessly. They schedule their hours as if every minute were life or death. Because in a way it is. Because the cumulative effect of wasted or well-spent time is the measure of a life lived poorly or a life lived extraordinarily. And every decision, every action, every moment must reflect this reality, which is why they say no to trivial pleasures, meaningless interactions, and unnecessary comforts, and yes to work, growth, discipline, learning, and the pursuit of mastery, because each day is a brick in the fortress of their future, and every wasted day is a hole in that fortress, weakening the foundation, compromising strength, and delaying victory. The practical implication is simple yet merciless. Track your time, evaluate every activity, eliminate distractions, enforce systems that compel productivity, and treat every hour as if it were worth a fortune, because in truth, it is. And those who understand this and act upon it relentlessly create unshakable mental strength, achieve mastery in their craft, and build a life that others envy, while those who ignore it drift, complain, and watch life pass by. And the brutal stoic reality is that the clock never stops, the world never waits, and you will not be given a single extra moment for indecision, distraction, or weakness. So embrace this truth, internalize it, act upon it every single day without compromise, without excuse, without delay, because time is life itself, and wasting it is the slowest form of self-destruction imaginable. And when you finally accept this, you stop negotiating with the hours, you stop surrendering your energy to trivialities, and you finally step into a life where every action, every choice, and every moment is a deliberate strike toward mastery, freedom, and unshakable mental strength. Because the mentally strong understand that time is the most valuable, non-renewable, and merciless resource you possess. And once you wield it as such, nothing external can stop you from dominating your life.
Truth 8. People will disappoint you. Here is a truth that most people refuse to face, a truth that is bitter, brutal, and yet liberating if internalized properly. People will disappoint you, betray you, let you down, fail to meet your expectations, and act in ways that harm you. And the sooner you accept this, the sooner you stop wasting energy, emotion, and time on illusions of fairness, loyalty, or reliability, because the world is not designed to cater to your feelings, your ideals, or your sense of justice. And no matter how much you give, how much you trust, how much you hope, people will fail, betray, ignore, or abandon you at some point. And if you allow yourself to be devastated each time this happens, you will never develop mental strength, resilience, or freedom, because your emotional state will always be chained to the behavior of others, and you will be at the mercy of circumstances beyond your control. And this is exactly what weak minds do. They base their happiness, their confidence, their decisions, and their self-worth on what other people do, think, or say, and then wonder why life feels unfair, why pain persists, why disappointment strikes, when in reality, it is the natural order of life. People are imperfect, selfish, short-sighted, and unpredictable, and expecting otherwise is a formula for suffering. And the mentally strong understand this and act differently. They internalize that people will fail them, and instead of reacting with anger, bitterness, or despair, they anticipate it, detach emotionally from the outcome, and focus on what they can control, which is their own actions, thoughts, and decisions. Because the only person whose reliability you can guarantee, whose loyalty you can ensure, whose competence you can trust completely, is yourself. And once you grasp this, you stop handing your power to others, stop letting your emotions be hijacked, and stop creating unnecessary suffering by hoping people will act in a way that aligns with your desires. Because hope in others is always risky. Hope in yourself is reliable. And the sooner you act on this principle, the sooner you reclaim your agency, clarity, and freedom. Consider relationships, for example. Friends, family, colleagues, partners, mentors. No matter how much you invest in them, the moment comes when they fail, disappoint, or act selfishly. And if your happiness, your motivation, or your progress is dependent on their actions, you will collapse, stagnate, or burn in frustration. But if you internalize that their actions are outside your control, you can respond rationally, adjust your strategy, and continue forward without wasting energy on resentment or despair. And the same principle applies to any situation in life where people have influence. In business, in career, in education, in social circles, in any collaborative effort, people are unreliable by nature. Mistakes happen, priorities change, incompetence emerges. And if you allow these realities to destabilize your mind, you will be permanently weak, perpetually frustrated, and chronically victimized by circumstances. Whereas the mentally strong anticipate these failures, factor them into their decisions, act with contingencies, and develop resilience, precisely because they know disappointment is inevitable. And this mindset transforms adversity into opportunity, betrayal into insight, setbacks into lessons, and chaos into clarity. Because when you stop expecting perfection from others, you stop being shocked by imperfection. And when you stop being shocked by imperfection, you stop being manipulated emotionally, spiritually, and strategically. And you begin to operate from a position of control, foresight, and calm determination. And this does not mean you become cold, unfeeling, or cynical. It means you become prepared, aware, and unshakable. Because expecting people to behave according to your ideal is a fantasy, and clinging to that fantasy is a trap. And once you let go of it, you can finally focus on building yourself, your skills, your discipline, and your mental strength without being constantly derailed by the unpredictability of others. Here's the practical application. Always have contingency plans. Always prepare for disappointment. Always assume people may not deliver. And always prioritize your independence. Because the stronger your self-reliance, the less anyone else's failures can destabilize you. And the more you focus on your own actions and responsibilities, the less wasted energy, time, and emotional turmoil you experience. And you begin to understand that life is a game, where external actors cannot be trusted to behave fairly,
but your own discipline, consistency, and foresight can. And mastering this principle is one of the fastest ways to build mental toughness, clarity, and freedom. Because you stop reacting emotionally, you stop being dependent on others for validation, approval, or results, you stop being manipulated by circumstance, and you start making decisions that serve your long-term vision regardless of who disappoints you or how the world conspires against you. And once you fully embrace this truth, you are mentally liberated, strategically prepared, emotionally unshakable, and fundamentally stronger than the majority of people who continue to be victims of expectation, betrayal, and unreliable humans because they cling to illusions of loyalty, trust, and fairness, whereas you operate in reality, unclouded by wishful thinking, fully aware that people will fail, and you will survive, thrive, and dominate anyway.
Truth 9. You are responsible for everything in your life. Here is a truth so brutally empowering that most people will resist it. A truth so uncomfortable that it forces you to confront yourself without excuses or rationalizations. You are responsible for everything in your life. And until you accept this fully, you will remain weak, reactive, and perpetually at the mercy of circumstance, other people, and random events. Because blaming others, blaming society, blaming luck, blaming your upbringing, your genetics, or the system is the natural refuge of the weak, the fearful, and the undisciplined. And yet, as harsh as it is, the reality is that you alone are accountable for the quality of your life, your mental state, your decisions, your health, your wealth, your relationships, your skills, your mindset, and your results. And every time you point a finger outward, you are ignoring the fact that 3 fingers point back at you, reminding you that your destiny is yours and yours alone. And accepting this responsibility is not a burden, it is liberation. Because once you internalize it, you stop waiting, you stop hoping, and you stop blaming. And instead you act decisively, deliberately, and relentlessly. Because the mentally strong understand that they cannot control everything, but they can control themselves. And that self-mastery is the only real power in life. And nothing external matters unless you allow it to, and nothing can hold you back unless you permit it. And the sooner you accept that you are responsible for every choice, every outcome, every failure, every victory, every reaction, and every thought, the sooner you reclaim control over your life and stop being a victim of circumstance. Consider the world around you. Chaos, injustice, betrayal, randomness, and misfortune are inevitable. And if you spend your time blaming these forces, resenting them, or complaining, you will waste precious energy, time, and mental clarity. Whereas if you take full responsibility, you see the truth clearly. You cannot change the past, you cannot dictate how others act, you cannot control random events, but you can choose how you respond, what you focus on, what you prioritize, and what actions you take. And these choices are the only things that ultimately shape your life. And the mentally strong act from this understanding every single day. They refuse to surrender their power to external factors. They refuse to give their energy away to excuses, and they refuse to allow circumstances to dictate their mindset, because they understand that responsibility is freedom, that ownership is power. And the moment you accept that you are responsible for everything, you stop feeling powerless, you stop feeling stuck, and you begin to operate with precision, discipline, and relentless purpose. Let's break this down practically. If your health is poor, it is your responsibility to fix it through diet, exercise, sleep, and discipline. No one else will do it for you. And if you wait for a doctor, a mentor, or a miracle, your life will continue deteriorating.
If your financial situation is weak, it is your responsibility to learn, earn, invest, and strategize, because waiting for luck, inheritance, or charity is surrender. If your skills are insufficient, it is your responsibility to study, practice, and develop, because no one will hand you mastery. If your relationships are toxic or unfulfilling, it is your responsibility to communicate, set boundaries, and choose wisely, because external people cannot guarantee your emotional health. If your mindset is weak, it is your responsibility to discipline your thoughts, rewire your beliefs, and cultivate resilience, because no one else can think for you. And the same principle applies to every area of life: career, business, personal growth, mental fortitude, habits, and legacy. Everything you have, everything you lack, and everything you will achieve rests squarely on your shoulders. And once you internalize this, excuses lose their power. Procrastination becomes intolerable, and action becomes inevitable, because you understand that waiting, blaming, and complaining are simply forms of surrender. And surrender is unacceptable if your goal is to become unshakable, disciplined, and extraordinary. And this awareness transforms the way you live, because every choice becomes intentional, every action becomes deliberate, every effort becomes magnified, and every moment is recognized as a chance to assert your responsibility and take ownership. And when you operate this way consistently, you develop clarity that most people never experience, because they drift through life, reactive, dependent, and powerless, while you operate proactively, independently, and decisively, knowing that the only true limit to your life are the limits you place on yourself. And that every failure, every obstacle, every setback, every mistake is an opportunity to exercise responsibility, to learn, to adapt, and to grow stronger. And the mentally strong do not waste these opportunities, because they know that responsibility is not a punishment. It is the lever by which they lift their lives, the anchor that grounds them, the compass that guides them, and the source of their freedom. Because once you accept that you are responsible for everything, you are free from the chains of expectation, luck, and circumstance, free from the mental slavery of blaming, and empowered to shape your life deliberately, consistently, and unshakably. And there is no greater mental strength than this, no greater clarity, no greater freedom. Because you realize that your life is yours, your destiny is yours, and nothing outside of you can take that away unless you allow it. And once you embrace this truth fully, excuses evaporate, fear diminishes, procrastination collapses, and action becomes unstoppable, because you finally understand that you are accountable for everything. And that is the ultimate power of mental mastery.
Before the last truth, here is the bonus one, which will truly change you. A truth so powerful, so fundamental, and so brutally honest that it is the cornerstone upon which all other mental strength, discipline, resilience, and success rests. You must master yourself before anything else, and until you do, everything else, wealth, relationships, career, influence, skills, recognition, and even happiness, is fragile, fleeting, and unreliable, because no external achievement can compensate for internal chaos. No amount of money can buy the calm, clarity, and control that come from self-mastery, and no one else can discipline, focus, or regulate your mind for you, meaning that the only path to unshakable strength, unstoppable momentum, and extraordinary life outcomes begins with the ruthless, unflinching command over your own thoughts, emotions, habits, and actions. And yet this is the truth that most people avoid because it is inconvenient, uncomfortable, and relentless. Because mastering oneself requires facing every weakness, fear, laziness, impulse, distraction,
and irrational desire and confronting them directly, because humans are designed to seek comfort, pleasure, and avoidance of pain, and the vast majority will spend their entire lives surrendering to these instincts, creating a life dictated by fleeting moods, poor habits, external validation, and mindless reactions. And the brutal truth is that if you do not master your mind and your behavior, every external goal you chase will either crumble under the weight of inconsistency, sabotage, or lack of focus, or it will become meaningless, hollow, and temporary. And mastering yourself is not a one-time event. It is a daily war, a relentless practice, a continual honing of your mental, emotional, and physical faculties. And the mentally strong understand that this requires vigilance, self-awareness, and uncompromising honesty, because the mind is deceptive, emotions are persuasive, and habits are sticky. And unless you consciously design your inner world, it will be designed for you by default by impulses, distractions, society, and fear. And when that happens, you are a puppet, a reactionary, and a slave to circumstance. And nothing external, no amount of wealth, fame, opportunity, or external discipline can substitute for mastery over yourself. Because without control over your thoughts, your focus, your impulses, your reactions, and your decisions, every plan you make, every risk you take, every goal you pursue is subject to collapse at the first sign of discomfort, difficulty, or temptation. And this is why mastering yourself is the single most important truth, the foundation of every other principle, the prerequisite to every form of success, and the ultimate form of freedom. Because when you are in full command of yourself, no external event can destabilize you, no failure can defeat you, no person can manipulate you, no circumstance can break you, and no fleeting pleasure or pain can derail your trajectory. And mastery of self begins with awareness, because if you are not aware of your thoughts, your habits, your emotions, and your tendencies, you cannot control them. And without control, you remain at the mercy of every impulse, every mood, every distraction, and every societal expectation. And the moment you cultivate awareness, you gain the ability to observe yourself without judgment, without avoidance, and without excuse. And this observation is the first step toward intervention, correction, and design, because once you see clearly where you waste time, energy, and focus, where you succumb to weakness, indulgence, or fear, you can implement deliberate systems, habits, and routines to override these automatic tendencies. And this is where self-mastery begins to compound. Deliberate choice replaces automatic reaction, disciplined action replaces laziness, and focus replaces distraction. And the result is an unstoppable inner engine that fuels every action, every goal, and every achievement with precision, intensity, and resilience. And yet this mastery is not only about actions, it is about the mind itself, because the mind is the command center, the origin of every thought, intention, and decision. And until you can control it, regulate it, and direct it, you are still a prisoner of your own weaknesses, irrational fears, limiting beliefs, and fleeting desires. And the process of mental mastery is rigorous because it requires confronting the illusions that comfort, pleasure, validation, and avoidance have created. It requires resisting the pull of immediate gratification in favor of long-term results. It requires embracing discomfort as a teacher, not an enemy. It requires rigorous honesty about your own excuses, rationalizations, and inconsistencies, and it requires relentless practice until your mental and emotional responses become automatic extensions of your highest values and standards. And mastery of self also extends to the body, because physical strength, endurance, and health are inseparable from mental resilience. And until you develop control over your physical impulses, your energy, your health, and your habits, your mind is constantly limited, distracted, and weakened. And this is why true mastery is holistic, integrating mind, body, emotion, and habit into a single cohesive system designed to optimize performance, resilience, and long-term achievement. And the power of this truth is that it places all control in your hands, because once you master yourself, you no longer rely on others to keep you disciplined, motivated, or focused. You no longer depend on luck, opportunity, or favorable circumstances, and you no longer surrender your future to the whims of emotions, impulses, or distractions. And this control is liberating, empowering, and transformative, because it allows you to act with clarity, precision, and ruthless effectiveness in every area of life, because your internal world is no longer chaotic, reactive, or compromised, but instead is governed by deliberate design, high standards, and unshakable focus. And the practical application of this truth is everywhere. Every decision must be intentional. Every habit must be evaluated and optimized. Every thought must be observed and controlled. Every emotion must be acknowledged but not allowed to dominate action. Every reaction must be chosen consciously rather than surrendered to instinct. Every goal must be pursued with relentless focus and aligned action. Every distraction must be ruthlessly eliminated, and every opportunity must be seized with clarity, courage, and preparation, because mastery of self is the engine that drives excellence in every domain. And those who fail to develop this inner command are at the mercy of life, circumstance, and others, while those who do develop it are unstoppable, because nothing external can break them, nothing unforeseen can destabilize them, and nothing in the world can distract or derail them from their chosen path. And this is why every stoic, every great warrior, every high achiever, every philosopher, and every person of extraordinary discipline has internalized this principle. Before wealth, before fame, before power, before skill, before opportunity, before recognition, before anything else, you must master yourself, because without that foundation, everything else is built on sand and will crumble, falter, or be swept away. And the final lesson of this bonus truth is simple but devastatingly powerful. Commit to yourself with every ounce of focus, energy, and persistence you have, because mastering yourself is a lifelong practice, a daily war, a relentless pursuit, a process without end. And the moment you embrace it fully, act on it consistently, and refuse to compromise, you will unlock a level of mental strength, clarity, freedom, and power that no external circumstance, no failure, no obstacle, and no person can ever take away, because mastery begins within, and when it resides fully in you, you are finally unstoppable, unshakable, and truly free.
Truth 10. Comfort is the enemy of growth. Here is a truth that almost nobody wants to hear, because it strikes directly at the part of the human mind that craves ease, pleasure, and safety. Comfort is the enemy of growth, and until you stop chasing comfort, you will remain weak, stagnant, and unfulfilled, because the human body, mind, and spirit are designed to grow under pressure, challenge, and discomfort, not under ease, indulgence, and convenience. And yet most people spend their lives meticulously constructing comfortable cages for themselves, avoiding risk, avoiding challenge, avoiding pain, and convincing themselves that security is the ultimate goal, when in reality, security without strength, comfort without discipline, and ease without challenge is the fast track to mediocrity, frustration, and regret. And the mentally strong understand this brutally. They understand that comfort is seductive, deceptive, and dangerous because it lulls you into passivity, anesthetizes your ambition, and makes you believe you are safe and capable while your potential quietly atrophies. And the only way to build unshakable mental strength, resilience, and mastery in life is to repeatedly push beyond your limits, to endure what is difficult, to act when others hesitate, to embrace the pain, the uncertainty, the challenge, and the struggle. Because growth only happens on the edge of your comfort zone, in the moments where your mind screams stop, where your body protests, where your instincts plead for ease. And the stronger you become in these moments, the more control, confidence, and capability you acquire. And yet, the majority of people avoid this entirely. They settle for convenience, chase instant gratification, binge comfort, procrastinate under the illusion of safety, and then wonder why they are weak, unfulfilled, and incapable of achieving extraordinary results. And the Stoic truth is that life will never make it easy. Life will never hand you growth, resilience, or mastery on a silver platter. It will always challenge you, push you, and demand more than you think you can give. And if you continue to seek comfort instead of challenge, you will spend your life running from the very things that are required to make you strong, disciplined, and mentally unbreakable. And every time you choose comfort over challenge, every time you opt for ease over effort, every time you avoid discomfort, you reinforce weakness, erode your mental toughness, and delay your progress. Because strength, skill, confidence, and resilience are forged in the fire of struggle, repeated effort, and enduring what others will not. And the mentally strong do not shy away from these fires. They walk into them deliberately, repeatedly, and without hesitation, knowing that the pain of growth is temporary, but the benefits are permanent. And they understand that avoiding discomfort is the surest path to mediocrity, stagnation, and regret. Whereas embracing discomfort, enduring the grind, and pushing your limits relentlessly is the path to mastery, freedom, and unshakable mental strength. And this applies to every area of life: physical fitness, intellectual growth, emotional resilience, wealth creation, career success, social skills, and personal mastery. Because every field, every challenge, every aspiration requires sacrifice, effort, and confrontation with pain, struggle, and fear. And the sooner you internalize that comfort is your enemy, the sooner you start intentionally seeking challenge, embracing discomfort, and refusing to settle for ease, the sooner you will accelerate your growth, maximize your potential, and step into a level of mental strength, confidence, and capability that most people will never experience. And this is the ultimate truth of life. Nothing extraordinary is achieved in comfort. Nothing remarkable is accomplished by avoiding pain. Nothing meaningful is built by taking the easy path. And the mentally strong deliberately place themselves in situations where they must act, endure, and grow. Because they know that every act of courage, discipline, sacrifice, and effort compounds into a life of mastery, influence, and freedom. And they do this not once, not occasionally, but consistently, daily, without compromise, without excuses, and without retreat. And once you adopt this mindset, once you embrace challenge as a friend and discomfort as a teacher, you stop fearing failure.
You stop fearing pain. You stop fearing rejection. And you stop seeking temporary pleasure because you understand that real fulfillment, real strength, and real mastery are never delivered by comfort. And the closing truth is simple but devastatingly powerful. If you are unwilling to leave your comfort zone, to endure hardship, to embrace struggle, and to act when it is difficult, you will never become mentally unbreakable. You will never dominate your life, and you will never achieve the extraordinary. And if you internalize this, if you embrace discomfort, and if you act relentlessly despite it, you will join the ranks of those who live deliberately, act decisively, and achieve relentlessly. And that is the ultimate stoic victory, the ultimate mental strength, the ultimate freedom. Because life is designed to challenge you, and the mentally strong respond not with avoidance, not with complaint, but with action, courage, and persistence. Because comfort is the enemy, and the only way to victory is through it. So there you have it, 10 harsh, unflinching truths that most people refuse to face. Truths that strip away excuses, illusions, and dependence. And truths that, if embraced and acted upon relentlessly, will forge mental strength so unshakable that nothing in life can derail you. These truths are not easy to live by. They are designed to challenge, to provoke, and to demand accountability. But that is exactly why they work, and that is exactly why the mentally strong are so rare. Remember, pain is inevitable. Comfort is the enemy. Habits define you. Time is precious. People will disappoint. Nobody will save you. And everything in your life is your responsibility. Internalize these truths, act on them daily, and you will stop being average, stop being reactive, and start being relentless, disciplined, and unstoppable. Because mental strength is not a gift, it is a choice. And that choice begins now.